Okay, video two, everyday research. To me, the idea of being an everyday researcher means bringing the scientific method into real life, like not just formal experiment or laboratories. When I think about it like this way, I see research less as something distinct and like what we say academic and more as a mindset of being curious, asking good questions and testing ideas instead of just trusting my first impression. That really changes how I look like at my role in health, exercise, and rehab because it reminds me that I am supposed to be a problem solver, not just someone who follows a script or a template. I relate to this idea a lot, especially in the context of training, rehab, and even my own health habits. There have been many times where I started with a simple observation and then basically walked through the steps of the scientific method without calling it that. For example, if I notice that a client's kneecaps in during a squat or lunge, my first step is just to observe and acknowledge that something in the movement pattern is off. Then I start forming hypotheses in my head. Is it glute weakness, poor ankle mobility, or something going on with her foot position? Or maybe just a lack of motor control. From there, I test things out. Maybe I assess their hip strength, try some activation drills, or adjust their stance. Then I watch to see what actually changes. If the movement improves, I have some support for my original idea. If it doesn't, I have to admit that my first hypothesis might be wrong and go back to the drawing board. I also use this everyday researcher approach in my own life outside of working with clients. One example is with my own training and recovery. There were times where I felt unusually fatigued after workouts and I couldn't figure out why. Instead of just accepting it, I treated like a little research problem. I paid attention to patterns like time of a day, sleep, nutrition, and all other things. I guess that late night workouts or poor sleep were the main issues, and I noticed that my energy and recovery improved when I made those changes. That experience made the scientific method feel very real and personal because I was literally observing, hypothesizing, experimenting, and drawing conclusions in my own life. Like, overall, the everyday research idea definitely makes sense to me and actually feels empowering. It gives me permission to admit that I don't always have the answer right, but I do have a process to find a better answer over time. I always like the point that even an inclusive result is still a kind of conclusions because it tells me what didn't work and help me narrow things down in my future practice, like whether it's strength and conditioning, rehab, or public health. I want to keep using this mindset. It keeps me honest, keeps me curious, and reminds me that improving my decisions or first impressions or like small experiment at a time is part of being professional. Yep, that's my view.